When I lost my brother, my in-laws didn't show up to the funeral. They said, "He wasn't our problem." A week later, they held a barbecue and told my husband, "Time to stop mourning someone who didn't matter." I watched them toast marshmallows over a fire while my heart was still breaking. That night, I quietly mailed a package to a lawyer. Now they're asking why he's calling. My brother Evan was my only real family. He was 2 years older than me, and after our parents died in a car crash when I was 17, he basically became everything: my brother, my guardian, my parent, my home. It was winter when it happened. I remember I was cramming for finals and had just made myself a bowl of ramen when I got the call. After that, everything blurred. Evan was 19 at the time, in trade school, working night shifts at a warehouse. When the social worker asked if he'd be willing to take custody of me, he didn't even hesitate. He dropped out, picked up 2 jobs, and found us a cheap apartment near a bus stop so I could finish high school. He didn't act like a hero. He just did what had to be done. I never forgot that. So years later, when Evan got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, there was never a question. He moved in with me and my husband Josh. We had a small guest room that became his space. I told Josh right away, and to his credit, he didn't argue. At least not at first. But the change didn't sit well with his family. Josh's parents are the type that organize group vacations down to the hour. They throw parties for every holiday, even the small ones. His sister hosts these forced game nights where everyone has to participate or you're killing the vibe. And they talk. Constantly. Loudly. Usually over each other. I'm the opposite. I like quiet. I like space. I don't like teasing or roasting people as affection. From the beginning, they said I was cold or shy or too sensitive. I brushed it off. Tried to laugh when they made fun of my clothes or my cooking. I smiled through dinners even when I felt drained. But when Evan moved in, things got worse. At first, it was little comments. Josh's mom told me, "Hospice belongs in hospitals, not homes." His sister asked why I was sacrificing our peace for someone who was going to die anyway. They never visited. Not once. Josh kept making excuses for them, said they were just awkward or didn't know how to handle sickness. Meanwhile, Evan was shrinking by the day. I did everything. I cleaned up after him, helped him to the bathroom, cooked meals he could barely eat, sat beside him through his pain. He would try to joke sometimes, when he had the strength. He didn't want to be a burden. He apologized every time he threw up. One night, I found him crying quietly, thinking I was asleep. I sat beside him on the floor and he whispered, "I just wanted to give you a better life than this." That broke me. Because he did give me a better life. He made me strong. He gave me a home when I had nothing. He taught me how to survive. And in return, all I could do was watch him disappear. Josh grew distant during those months. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. He just pulled away. Stayed late at work. Slept on the couch when Evan's coughing kept him up. Sometimes I'd ask him to sit with us, just for an hour. He always had an excuse. Evan died early on a Wednesday morning. I held his hand through the night. His breathing had changed, shallow and uneven. I sat beside him in silence. Around 3:20 a.m., he squeezed my hand, weakly, and said, "You're gonna be okay." Those were his last words. I didn't know what to do after. I called the hospice nurse, then just sat on the floor beside the bed for hours. Josh came home around 9 a.m. He stood in the doorway like he didn't know what to say. I told him Evan was gone. He nodded. Then he said, "Should I call work and take the day?" I didn't even answer. The funeral was 4 days later. I handled everything. I paid for it, arranged the cremation, booked the small chapel. Only a few people came. An old neighbor from Evan's building, a co-worker from years back, a nurse who had cared for him. Josh came, stood beside me, said nothing. His parents didn't come. Neither did his sister. I asked him later if they were planning to send flowers or a card. He said, they didn't feel it was their place. Evan wasn't really family. I just nodded. I felt like I was watching myself from outside my own body. That Sunday, they had their usual family barbecue. Josh wanted to go. Said it might be good for us to get out of the house. I said no. Evan's clothes were still in the laundry basket. I hadn't washed the blanket from his bed. I hadn't eaten properly in days. Josh went anyway. He came back with a takeout container and a sunburn. I asked how it went. He said, "My sister said it's probably time to stop mourning someone who didn't matter that much." And then he laughed. Like it was uncomfortable. Like he didn't know what else to do.
I didn't respond.
I just went upstairs and lay in Evan's old room. That night, I sat on the porch for hours. It was quiet. Just some dogs barking in the distance, a firework or two. I felt hollow. The next morning, I opened a drawer and pulled out a folder I'd been quietly building for months. Inside, text messages from Josh's family, cruel ones, dismissive ones, voicemails, including one where his mother said, "This whole martyr act is exhausting. She's acting like he was a saint." Financial records. I had drained most of my savings to pay for Evan's care. Josh had contributed nothing. The small life insurance payout Evan had set up years ago, naming me as sole beneficiary. A list of things said.
Things not said.
Moments I was left alone. I made a copy of everything. I wrote a letter. Then I mailed it all to a lawyer whose name I'd written down the week Evan died. I wasn't looking for money. I didn't even know what I wanted exactly. Just some kind of accountability.
Some way to say,
"This happened. This wasn't okay. And I'm not crazy for feeling broken over it." That was about 6 weeks ago. Now Josh is getting calls. He keeps asking me if I've heard from anyone about some legal thing. He said someone mentioned financial disclosures and used the words emotional abandonment during bereavement. He's nervous. He doesn't know what I've done.
But he's about to.
And I don't feel bad. Not even a little. The lawyer finally sent a letter to the house. Certified. Josh signed for it. I was in the kitchen when he opened it. I heard the rip of the envelope, then silence. Long silence. He came in holding the papers, white-faced. "What the hell is this?" he asked. I didn't look up. Just said, "A response." He kept reading. He didn't get it at first. The lawyer wasn't suing him exactly.
Not yet.
It was more like a legal warning. A formal statement that I was documenting emotional neglect, financial abandonment, and mental harm during a period of bereavement. The kind that can come up in court if divorce proceedings begin. I had told the lawyer everything. How Evan was treated like trash. How I was mocked for grieving. How Josh's family said he wasn't real family. How I was made to feel small for crying. Josh didn't yell. He just stood there, blinking hard. "Are you serious?" he finally said. "You're threatening to drag my family through the mud because of your brother?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. A few days later, his sister texted me. I hadn't blocked her yet. She wrote, "Wow. Guess some people love playing the victim. Hope your dead brother is proud of the circus you're creating." I screenshotted it and sent it to the lawyer. No words, just the image. Josh's family started circling the wagons after that. His mom called him constantly. I could hear her voice through the phone, shrill, urgent. One night I caught him pacing on the patio, whispering, "No, she's not backing down. Yes, she really sent a lawyer. No, she hasn't said anything about money." Then came the next twist. I got a call from HR at my job. They said someone had sent an anonymous tip saying I was using company time and resources to pursue personal legal vendettas. It was a lie, but I still had to sit through a humiliating meeting and explain myself. Luckily, my boss knows me and backed me up, but when I asked who sent the tip, they just said it was anonymous. I knew it wasn't a stranger. That night, I confronted Josh. I asked if his family had sent anything to my work. He swore he didn't know. But he didn't look surprised. So I did something I hadn't planned. I took my laptop, opened my backup folder, and showed him the files. All of it. The messages. The screenshots. The voicemails. Even the one where he laughed when his sister said Evan didn't matter. I told him calmly, "This isn't about revenge. This is about truth." about how I was treated when the person who raised me died. He said nothing. He looked like someone had knocked the air out of him. A week passed. We barely spoke. I moved into the guest room. His family kept texting him. He'd lock himself in the bathroom to talk. I started getting weird messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Most were nasty. One even said, "Hope you rot with your brother." I cried in the shower for an hour after that one. I saved every message, forwarded it to my lawyer. Then something I didn't expect happened. One morning, I got an email from Evan's old landlord. He said he had found a small safe behind a cabinet while cleaning out Evan's apartment, and it had my name on a note taped to it. I drove across the city and picked it up. The landlord gave me a look like he knew something important had passed through his hands. Inside the safe were 2 letters. One for me, one for whoever she marries. Mine was simple. It said, "If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I just wanted you to have something else from me. You've always deserved more than what life gave you. Stay kind, but don't stay silent." The other one broke me. It was addressed to my husband. If you ever hurt her, really hurt her, know this. She may be quiet, but she remembers everything. She's stronger than you think. And I won't be here to stop what happens next. Josh read it later that night. I didn't say a word, just handed it to him and walked away. The walls in our house have gotten thinner. Not physically, just emotionally. Every silence now feels like shouting. The lawyer told me we're ready for the next step if I want it. Josh's family still thinks they can scare me into backing down. They're wrong. They think grief makes people weak. But they forgot who raised me. They forgot Evan. 2 weeks after I got the letters from Evan's old landlord, something strange happened. A woman came to my work. She waited outside the building, near the back exit, holding a brown paper bag and a plastic folder. I didn't recognize her. She looked about mid-50s, hair tied back, dressed simple. When I walked out, she stepped forward. "Are you Evan's sister?" she asked. I froze. "Who are you?" I asked. She introduced herself as Dana, said she used to know Evan. Then she lowered her voice and said, "I used to be his caseworker. From when he took custody of you." That stopped me. I didn't know Evan ever had a caseworker he kept in touch with. We sat in my car, windows cracked open. She gave me the folder. It had copies of emails Evan had sent her over the years. Notes, updates, sometimes photos of me at graduation, starting college, even one from my wedding. He'd kept her updated for almost a decade. She said, he wanted someone to know, in case anything ever happened. He told me once he didn't trust your husband. I blinked hard, trying to keep my breath steady. She handed me the paper bag. This was in my office drawer for years. He gave it to me just in case. Said, I'd know when to pass it on. Inside the bag was a flash drive, a small notebook, and $300 in old bills, folded together with a paperclip. The notebook had lists.
Names. Dates.
Receipts. It was Evan tracking every dollar he spent on me while raising me. Not for payback, just keeping record. Quietly. Like always. The flash drive had scanned documents, our parents' insurance settlement, most of which had gone toward rent, school fees, and groceries. It showed how Evan never touched a penny for himself. But what shook me was the last folder on the drive. For her eyes only. Inside were saved voicemails. Some I remembered. Others I didn't. One from Josh, dated a year before Evan died, saying, I can't keep watching her waste her life taking care of him. It's pathetic. He's going to die anyway. Another one from Josh's sister. If you don't step in, she's going to drain your marriage dry. That guy's just sucking the air out of your house. I sat in my car until it was dark outside. My boss came looking for me, but I just waved him off. Later that night, I printed the transcripts and handed them to my lawyer. He paused, read one page twice, and said, This changes things. He asked if I wanted to go public. Not social media, but legal escalation, deposition, protective orders, building a larger claim. Maybe even grounds for emotional distress with financial impact, depending on the full context. I said, Not yet. Then twist number 2. Josh's dad showed up at the house. He never visits, not even on holidays. He's always been quieter than the rest of them, cold but formal. I was working in the garden when I saw him pull up. He stepped out, didn't even say hello. Just said, "This has gone too far." I stood up, wiping dirt off my hands. "You came to say that?" He looked around like he didn't want to be overheard. Then he said something I didn't expect. "You're not wrong about them," he said. "But you're about to tear your life apart." I stared at him. He looked tired, not angry. I warned Josh about how they talk, about what that kind of coldness does to people. He told me he and Josh's mother were on the edge of divorce, that things had been rotting inside that family for years, only held together by image, that Josh had always taken his mother's side out of habit, not love. I didn't know what to say. Then he said, "Evan sounded like a better man than me, than any of us." And he left. That night, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. No stamp. Just left there. Inside was a handwritten note. "You think you're winning, but people like you always get left in the end." It wasn't signed. I showed it to the lawyer. He added it to the file. I started locking my doors more often. And still, through all this, Josh said nothing. He walked around like a ghost, quiet, careful, like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. But I already knew. I wasn't waiting anymore. The storm had already started. It started with a letter. My lawyer filed the formal paperwork for divorce, citing emotional cruelty during bereavement and hostile family environment leading to mental distress. We had everything backed up. Screenshots, messages, voicemails, timelines. The flash drive Evan had left me sealed the case. Josh came home the day after it was served. He stood in the doorway for a long time, holding the paper. His hands were shaking. I was packing a box of Evan's books. I didn't look at him. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," he said. "I did," I replied. "The moment he died, and you laughed at his name." He sat down on the couch like the wind had knocked him over. He didn't cry. He just sat there. His family started blowing up my phone the same day. Angry, fake shocked messages. Calling me a gold digger, a drama queen, a liar. Saying I was ruining their name. But I wasn't done. I gave a formal statement to HR at Josh's office. Not because I wanted him fired, but because I wanted the truth in writing. I gave them the voicemail where he said caring for Evan was pathetic. The email he sent to his sister saying I was crumbling into a grief-obsessed shell. The company opened an internal review. Josh was put on unpaid leave while they reviewed his conduct. He moved out 2 weeks later. Took just 2 bags. The rest I packed and left on the porch. I sent the barbecue photos to the lawyer next. They weren't private, just old Facebook photos from the weekend after Evan's funeral. I matched them up to the time of death, the funeral notice, and paired them with a voicemail where Josh's sister said, "Time to stop mourning someone who didn't matter." The lawyer filed a claim of defamation and emotional harm. Not for jail time, just to make it real. Josh's sister tried to lie about it at first, but the audio and texts crushed her. Her employer saw the legal filings, and she was asked to take a leave. She'd been working in a school district. Her husband, who I barely knew, called me a week later and apologized. Said he'd had no idea how bad it had been. Said their marriage was on hold. Josh's mom sent me a handwritten letter full of underlined words and weird spiritual quotes. It ended with, "You'll feel this karma in your own soul one day." I scanned it and added it to the case file. Then, the last part. The part that mattered to me most. I set up a quiet fund. Just a simple account in Evan's name. I used the insurance money he left me, along with a bit from the divorce settlement. Nothing big, but enough. I called it the Evan Heart Compassion Grant. It gives small, one-time gifts to people caring for dying family at home. No big requirements. Just a form, a short story, and a proof of need. I kept it private. No social media, no press. Every application gets read by me. I've helped 15 families so far. One woman wrote that she felt like she was screaming into a tunnel, and no one ever heard her. I sent her enough for 3 months of groceries and a house cleaning service. She wrote back, "Someone heard me. That was all I wanted." One more thing happened after all that. Josh showed up 6 months later. I'd moved to a small apartment across town. He knocked on my door, holding nothing. I didn't invite him in. He looked thinner, older. He said, "I just wanted to say sorry."
For all of it.
I nodded. That was all. I didn't hug him.
Didn't cry.
I said, "You didn't protect me. Not once." He said, "I know." Then he turned around and walked away. That was the last time I saw him. I still visit Evan's spot at the cemetery. It's just a plaque on a bench in a park near the house where we grew up. He asked to be scattered there.
I sit there sometimes and talk to him.
I tell him the truth. That I'm okay now. That I didn't let them erase him. That I fought back. Quietly.
Carefully.
In my own way. And that I finally understand what he meant when he said, "You're gonna be okay." Because now I am. And they're not.